Hey, I'm going to do a quick rundown of tonight's UFC on FX4. It wasn't a particularly great card, as the main event also was pretty appalling. I'll start off talking about Hatsuhiyoki. A lot of people may have heard of him over the last few weeks because he was offered a fight against Jose Aldo for the title, and he turned that fight down, saying he needed more experience and time in the octagon. Tonight he got his chance fighting Ricardo Lamas, and Hatsuhiyoki put in a great dart stroke in the first round, was doing very well on the ground, even when he was on bottom, he was doing well. However, he tired out seriously in the third round especially. He pretty much had absolutely nothing left in the tank. So rightfully so, he ended up losing the fight, and the chance of him seeing Jose Aldo anytime sooner or over. And I would pretty much say that is a good thing, because had the guy who fought tonight fought Jose Aldo, he would have gotten absolutely whooped. He would have definitely gotten knocked out in that third round. He had some critical flaws. He constantly put his head in under Lamas's arm. When Lamas was on his back, he put his head right under his armpit. Lamas went for a choke a couple of times and was very, very close to having it on one occasion. So, and on his feet, he didn't seem to possess much power. So maybe it's a good thing that people didn't waste their pay-per-view money watching him fight Jose Aldo, because Aldo would have absolutely murdered him. The next fight, the only other fight I'm really going to talk about, since it wasn't the best of cards, was Maynard versus Clay Guida. Maynard really wants another shot at getting the title back. He got knocked out in the last fight that he was in when he was competing for the title. So Dana White said before this match that this would definitely be an entertaining match. He was like, there's no way this could be a bad match. And he went on his Twitter and he said that he thought the fight couldn't be boring in any way, and how wrong he could be. Just some of his Twitter posts over the last half an hour. One person messaged him saying, "I'm changing the channel, this is boring," and he replied, "I don't blame you." He said that the crowd went from Guida fans to Maynard fans. He said the ref took a point from Guida for running. This is like the Twilight Zone. I never thought I'd see that. And horrible fight, with the word horrible in capital letters. This was a 5-round fight, unfortunately, and what can I say? I actually thought Guida managed to steal it 3 rounds to 2. His game plan was very, very clear in the first round. Move, 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 land the jab, or land the jab straight, and get out the way, and then move, 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 move. You could see Maynard was getting so irritated and annoyed with the game plan of Guida. Guida obviously was very worried about Maynard's power. So he was just jabbing, moving out the way. If anyone ever saw Floyd Mayweather versus Carlos Baldomir, it was almost like that fight where, Floyd was just jabbing, moving, and trying to do that. Except Guida wasn't exactly outlanding the guy. He ended up losing via a split decision. I actually had it 3 rounds to 2 for Guida. Whilst I think it was a very, very boring style for him to have, I think it was if he was to use his brain, it was a pretty effective thing to do, because if you think about it, Maynard, it was clear in the fight, has more power than Clay Guida, and Clay managed to stop Maynard from taking him down in the entire fight. In the last round, the referee actually stopped the fight and warned Clay Guida, of all people, to stop running. I would have never, ever, ever thought I'd see Clay Guida get threatened to take points away for refusing to engage. The fans who were chanting Guida, Guida in the first round and the second round started chanting for Maynard, and they booed when one of the judges had scored it for Clay Guida. It was a pretty boring fight. I mean, I appreciate, if you want to get down to it technically, I appreciate Guida's tactics. He knew he couldn't out-wrestle Maynard, so he knew he had to win it on the feet. He knew on the feet Maynard was very dangerous with power, so his tactics was to hit and run, hit and run, hit and run. Unfortunately, that resulted in probably single digits punches being landed in 5-minute rounds. The only clear-cut round was probably the 5th round, where Maynard completely earned the round. In the 4th round, Maynard was actually getting so annoyed and frustrated with chasing this guy around. He started swinging wildly a few times and missing. He actually dropped his hands and let Guida land 2 flush punches on his chin, which was probably about the only highlight. That 10-15 seconds was probably about the only highlight that I can actually remember in a 25-minute fight. That's how good the fight was. The picture you're seeing on your screen right now is probably more entertaining than watching the fight. Gray Maynard wins. He said that he wants a 4th match now. So I mean, you know, let's see if he gets that. First, Ben Henderson fights Frankie Edgar, but he wants a 4th match with Frankie Edgar. I thought the first match against Edgar was very entertaining. How Edgar came back to not lose that fight is beyond me. And then the second match when Edgar knocked him out, those two can fight. Is an entertaining fight. Afterwards, Gray said that he wanted to bring it to Atlantic City like Arturo Gatti. I would hardly say tonight's performance was anything worthy of mentioning Arturo's name, but he blamed that on Guida. The only other interesting thing that happened the whole night when these two fought was afterwards, when Maynard made those comments, he said, "I thought Guida came here to fight." In the post-fight interview, when he was leaving the octagon on the steps, you see Clay Guida went up to his face and they were kind of in each other's face, and the brilliant production crew decided to fucking cut away from it and show replays of one of the most boring fights there was. I mean, I don't understand the people in the trucks who work for these companies. There's 2 fighters going face to face, looking like something might happen, and you cut to replays. Come on, man. People want to see this shit. But anyway, if you missed tonight's event, you really didn't miss too much. Not on the main card anyway. Sam Stout versus Spencer Fisher was only probably the other noteworthy fight. Stout won the fight. Fisher was saying at the age of 36 was probably his last fight, which, you know, on tonight's evidence, I mean, he's not going to be champion, and maybe it's best, but it was an entertaining fight. It wasn't as entertaining as their second fight, or their first fight if you ask me, but it was an entertaining fight. Overall, a pretty disappointing night for the UFC, and I have a feeling that tomorrow is going to be another one, a main event that nobody really asked for. I mean, how are you going to put Franklin versus Silva, a great fight, as maybe a co-main event, but as a main event, charge people money for that on pay-per-view? I don't get it. But then again, I live in the UK, and, you know, when they're coming back to the UK, I don't know who's going to be in our main event. Yeah, it's probably going to end up being Dan Hardy versus some other guy you've never heard of. We're used to getting absolute crap. So let's hope these cards pick up soon, and they will. Anderson Silva, he'll be fighting very soon, so the cards will pick up. But overall, crap night. 1 or 2 good fights throughout the whole night, including the fights on pay-per-view. On Facebook, and you didn't miss much. It'll be interesting to see where Clay Guida goes from here, and it'll be interesting to see who Gray Maynard fights next. So, hope you enjoyed this catch-up. I'm off to bed.